that is fundamentally dependent on chronology. Right? So remember again, we have this idea. The Mishnah says that if after relations she does a bedika and finds blood on her bedika cloth, so ultimately again everything depends on when she finds it. If she finds it immediately, then halacha l'maisa, ultimately again will be tamei, and ultimately again he will be subject to a karban. The Mishnah then said the lashon was nimtza al shala achar zman. If she finds blood on her bedika cloth afterwards, tamei misafek. Ultimately again they are tamei misafek upeturim min karban, and ultimately again pata from karban. The Mishnah then goes on to define what is achar zman. It's the amount of time that it takes to go ahead and get off of the bed and for her to wipe herself. So now the Gemara says, the Gemara is going to challenge this, or minhi, or raise the kasha, hezu achar zman, bless you. What is achar zman? So Pirish Rabbi as Rabbi Tzadok, kadesh toshit yada tachas hakar, o tachas hakeses. So Rabbi Tzadok says it's the amount of time that it takes for her to go ahead and reach underneath her pillow, underneath her cushion, where she may be keeping her badika cloth, and go ahead and check herself. So Rabbi say, this is obviously a different shear than espoused in the Mishnah, because the Mishnah said it's the amount of time that it takes her to get off the bed and then go ahead and check herself. Here it's saying she's not even getting off the bed. Here it's saying that the badika cloth is underneath the cushion, underneath the pillow, and it's the amount of time that it takes her to just get the badika cloth and do the badika, which is obviously a shorter amount of time. So which one is it? So the Gemara says, my ach, Amar Rav Chisda explains, it's not a contradiction. My achar, they both say, what does achar mean? Achar. So the Mishnah, will say, is actually referring to a third time period. So in fact, Rav Chisda suggests that in fact there are three time periods in halacha. There's esyom, or what we call vesis, immediately. Immediately, mamish means immediately. We saw the definition yesterday. Literally right when the bia is over, the bedika takes place. Then there is achar zman. Achar zman means the amount of time that it takes her to reach underneath the pillow, underneath the cushion, get the bedika cloth, and check herself. Achar is the amount of time that it takes her to get off the bed and then go ahead and check herself. Three different time periods. But we said about this, nimtza al shalala achar zman tamein misafei. We learned, the Mishnah said that if the blood is found on her bedika cloth, achar zman, ultimately the tamein misafei upeturim min karban. Ezu achar zman, and the Mishnah says, what's achar zman? Shabbos say achar zman seems to be the first period of time after immediately. What's achar zman? Kadesh tered min hamita v'tadiach panel. Enough time for her to get off or the amount of time for her to get off the bed, and ultimately again to check herself. To which the Shabbos said, so that seems to be the shir. Hachikamar, this is what it means to say. Ezu achar zman. What is achar zman? Kadesh toshet yadala sachas hakar olo sachas hakesas. V'tital eid v'tivdok bo. Achar zman abosai means the amount of time that it takes her to reach underneath a cushion or pillow, take the bedika cloth and check herself. Ukedesh terid min amita v'tadiach es paneha. So I say, if she takes longer, if she doesn't check herself until the amount of time that it would take to get off the bed and check herself, that period of time is machlokes Rabbi Akiva v'chachamim. I say that period of time is subject to the machlokes Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. Baha v'achar katani. So, but the Mishnah says that refers to that time as achar kach. Hachi kamar v'zeu achar kach shenechluku Rabbi Akiva v'chachamim. And this is the achar kach. This is the third period of time, over which Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim argue. So, both say. So, therefore, Rav Chisda's model is as follows. In Rav Chisda's models, there are three periods of time. There's what we call the esyom, immediately. So if she checks immediately as defined that right when the bia is over, she checks. So we'll say if she finds blood, that's halacha l'maisa, tamei, and chayiv karban. Then there's what's called achar zman. Achar zman is the amount of time that it takes her to reach under the pillow or a cushion and go ahead and take the bedika cloth and check herself. So that the Mishnah ruled is tamei misafek. Then there's a third period of time, achar, which is the amount of time for her to get off the bed and do the checking. That period of time, according to Rav Chisda, is subject to machlokes in Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. Good, that's Rav Chisda. Comes along Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi Amar, Idi v'idi chad shiuruhu. The truth is, it's the same shear. It's the same shear. Eid biyada, it's just two different ways of articulating the same shear of acher. Eid biyada, if the bedika cloth is in her hand, if she's already holding the bedika cloth, then halacha l'maisa, the amount of time of acher is the amount of time that it takes her to get off the bed and check herself. Ein eid biyada, if she is not holding the cloth, kadeshetoshet yada l'sachas akar l'sachas hakeses v'tital eid v'tivdok bo. But ultimately, again, if she's not holding the bedika cloth, then it's the amount of time that it takes her to put her hand underneath the cushion, underneath the pillow, retrieve the aid, retrieve the cloth, and check herself. So we'll say, so Rav Ashi sidesteps this entire thing. There's only two shiurim, right? There's a shir of immediately, as yom, and then there's a shir of achar zman. There's no achar. The shir of achar zman. What's the shir of achar zman? It's articulated in one of two ways. Either if she's holding the bedika cloth in her hand already, the amount of time it takes her to get off the bed and do the bedika, or if she's not holding the bedika cloth, the amount of time it takes her to reach underneath the cushion or the pillow to retrieve the aid and to go ahead and do the bedika. So says the Gemara Meisvei Ezehu Achar Zman. What is the shear of Achar Zman? Davar Zeh Shal. So remember again, what we know ultimately is that if she does a bedika immediately and finds blood, what's the halacha? Ultimately again, Tmein and Chayiv Karban. If ultimately again she does the bedika Achar Zman, then what? Tmein misafek, right? And obviously no carbon. Achar, well, according to Rav Chisda, achar is subject to machlokes Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, and according to Rav Ashi, achar doesn't exist. There's no such thing as achar. To which the Gemara says, Davar zeh sameisvei. Ezu ha'achar zman. What's the definition of achar zman? Davar zeh shal Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yitzchak lifnei Chacham b'usha. So Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yitzchak asked this question of the Chacham and Usha. V'amar lahem, and he said to them, Shema k'Rabbi Akiva atem omrim, Shema tama es bo'ala. Perhaps you Chachamim hold like Rabbi Akiva, who says that even Achar Zman, ultimately again, she is matame her husband. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Shema Rabbi Akiva atem omrim, top of first line on Tesvav and Aleph. Shema Rabbi Akiva atem omrim Shema tame es bo'ala. Kol me'is le'is ve'in lechem shir b'davar el me'is le'is. So we'll say, remember again, Rabbi Akiva's shita is that once she discovers blood, right, she is Timeya Me'es La'es. And I will say, Rabbi Akiva's incredible novel Chumrah is that although Me'es La'es, well, that Me'es La'es is also Mitami, her husband. See, I will say, everyone else holds, this is going back to the beginning of Masechta, everyone else holds that what's it in Me'es La'es, right? Remember, going back to Machlokes, Shammai and Hillel and the Chacham, the first Mishnah. Chacham are the one who, right, Shammai holds Daya Shaita, Hillel holds mi pekida lepekida or me'is la'is. I'm sorry, Hillel holds mi pekida lepekida, and Chachamim say mi pekida lepekida or me'is la'is. So when the Chachamim say that we could back up her tumor retroactively 24 hours, what does that impact? Taurus, right? Taurus, right? That's all it impacts. No one suggests that it impacts her husband except for Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva has this incredible shita that halach l'maisa me'is la'is doesn't just impact Taurus, but Me'is La'is impacts her husbands. Remember, everyone else ran away from that shita. Why? Because again, Imken Ye Libo Nokfa Uporesh, right? It's a very machmer shita. That means again, a couple is man is with his wife. Anytime within the next 24 hours, if she sees dam, that could mean that it turns retroactively he was Bo'al Niddah. It's almost like, okay, why Rabbi Akiva holds that way is our discussion. So ultimately, again, Rabbi Elazar says to the Chachamim, maybe you hold like Rabbi Akiva, and I will say in Rabbi Akiva's world, the reality is these ideas of immediately Achar Zman are really a little bit irrelevant, because the Maisa, he's saying whatever you've seen, when you see blood, the husband's already impacted for what? For the last 24 hours beforehand. So the Gemara says, Amru lo shamanu. The Chachamim said to Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yitzchak, we never heard the shita, right? Rashi says lo shamanu, so it's lo sviralan. So lo shamanu doesn't literally mean we never heard it. Rather, it means what? No, we don't hold like Rabbi Akiva. Amar lahem kach pirshu chacham biyavne. So ultimately, again, so Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yitzchak says to the Chachamim. Remember, he's going to the Chachamim in Usha. He tells them now, by the way, the Chachamim in Yavne said as follows: Lo shasa. If a woman did not wait the amount of time that it would have taken her to get off the bed and wipe herself, So we'll say, in other words, to say it a little bit differently, if she did her badika after relations within the amount of time, that less than the amount of time that it takes for a woman to get off the bed and to do her badika, that is called toch zmanhu. That is called within the time frame. Toch zman. U'timein misafek u'petur mikarban. V'chayavin ba'asham talui. So ultimately, in a case like this, Rabbi say, so this is called achar zman. Remember, it's not called immediately. It's called achar zman. But l'maisa, again, in this case, they're timein misafek, petur mikarban. But you have to, mikarban means a chatos, but you have to bring an asham talui. Shasa kadesh teri min amida v'tadiyachas paneha. But if halacha l'maisa, she waited longer than the amount of time that it would take to get off the bed and do the bedika, then what is that called? Achar hazmanhu zeh. Ultimately, again, that's called, they're calling it now achar hazman. So we'll say they're just giving different terms. According to the Chacham v'Yavneh, according to the Chacham min Yavneh, an immediate bedika is called probably esyom, just like the Mishnah. Esyom means immediate. Definition of immediate is what? Literally, the bia is over, husband withdraws, and she does the bedika right then and there. That's called immediately. The Chacham min Yavneh then have a second share. The second share is sochazman, right within the time. What's within the time? That's within the amount of time that it would take. And again, immediately, what's the halacha? Tamei and karban. Tochazman, within the time, which seems to be the amount of time that it would take her, less than the amount of time that it would take her to get off the bed and do the bedika. What's the halacha? Tamei and misafek. Tamei and misafek. Pater from chatas, but chayiv in asham talui. Right? Third category of time is what he calls achar hazman. Thank you. Achar hazman. So I'll say achar hazman after the time. That's zeh. Right? I'm sorry. It works backwards. If it's the amount of time, if she waits longer than the amount of time it takes her to get off the bed and do the bedika, that's called achar hazman. And I'll say what happens. Achar hazman. It appears nothing. It appears nothing. V'chein kishashasa me'is la'is u'mipekida lepekida. So we'll say, so this is incredible. According to the Chacham min Yavneh, achar hazman and me'is la'is is the same thing, right? It's the same thing. So we'll say, what happens then? Achar hazman or me'is la'is, bo'ala tameh mishum maga. So we'll say, it's actually quite interesting. Her husband will become tameh because of maga, because of touching a niddah. So we'll say, interestingly enough, we will not make him tameh with tumas niddah, as if he was bo'el niddah, but he has a lower form of tumah of magas niddah. Ve'enu metame mishum bo'el, and he will not become tameh ultimately again because of relations with the niddah. Rabbi Akiva Omer af metame mishum bo'el. Rabbi Akiva says ultimately again he even becomes tameh as a result of having relations with the niddah. So we'll say this is the opinion of the Chachamim in Yavneh. 3 periods of time. Immediately, esyom, ultimately again as defined by the bia ends, the bedika occurs. Halacha l'maisa tmeyin chayav and karban. Achars, no, keep saying it. What was the lashon? Keep forgetting the lashon. Toch zman. Toch zman means what? The amount, less than the amount of time that it takes you to get off the bed and do the bedika. That's tmeyin misafek chayiv and an asham talui. Achar hazman. Rabbi say achar hazman means anything longer than the amount of time it takes you to get off the bed and do the bedika. Up until what? Really up until pekida lepekida, the last bedika or the last 24 hours. In that case, halacha l'maisa, the husband will be tameh from touching a niddah, not from bia with a niddah, from touching a niddah, and not chay because of ball niddah. Rabbi Kiva holds he's chay even because of ball. Rabbi Huda ben Osh, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Omer, Ba'ala nichnas lahechol umaktir. So this is an interesting lashon. So Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, says the truth is in these kind of cases, achar hazman, there's not a problem at all. Even if the husband is a Kohen, he could go into the Beis HaMikdash and do the Ketores, which I will say is an exaggerated statement to say he's good to go, right? There's absolutely no problems over here. So the Gemara says, Bishlam al Rav Chisda. So according to Rav Chisda, this makes sense. Hanu de Matari Rabbanon. That's why the Rabbanon ultimately again said that he's tar. El Ravashi amai Matari Rabbanon. But according to Rav Ashi, ultimately, look at Rashi, just Bishlam Rav Chisda, Tarmi Kadesh Tered Achar Acharhu Hanu de Matari Rabbanon. So we'll say, according to Rav Chisda, ultimately who says that if it takes longer than the amount of time for her to get off the bed, that's called acher. And acher is totally tahar. I understand the same with Rabbi Yehuda ben Yochanan ben Zakkai. El Rav Ashi, amay mitari Rabbanan. But according to Rav Ashi, ultimately again, why would Rabbanan hold that he's tahar? V'chitema de'ein eid biyada. So maybe you'll say ultimately again, because we're talking about a case where she's not holding the bedika cloth. Eid, so the Gemara says, hi eid biyada. Ve'ein eid biyada mibayle. Then ultimately the Brisa should have been mechalik in that way, a distinction between when she's holding the eid and when she's not holding the eid. To which the Gemara says kasha. To which the Gemara says indeed that is a question. Rabbi say now the Gemara just picks up on the same Rabbi Yehuda ben Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yehuda ben Yochanan ben Zakkai Omer Baila nichnas lahechal umaktir kitores. So remember again about say Rabbi Yehuda ben Yochanan seems to say that what according to Rav Chisda would be acher da acher, the husband is totally tahar to the point that he can mamish go into the Beis Hamikdash and do the kitores. So first of all, says the Gemara, how could that even be true? I understand you're trying to make a point that the husband is tahar, but why would you choose that example? He can't go in and offer the kitores, and I'll tell you why for different reasons. The seifuklei to have no geb me'is la'is shebenidahu. Once I remember again, at the end of the day, like even according to what we saw by the Chacham of Yavneh, we'll say even if it's acher da acher, right? Even if it's the period of time where he's no longer chayiv because of being boel a niddah, he still has what? He still has touched the niddah. So doesn't that convey tumah as well? To which the Gemara says, "Da amar kishamai, da amar kala nashim dayin shaitan." You must see that Yehuda ben Yochanan ben Zakkai holds that's what, like Shammai, namely daya shaitan. Daya shaitan. That I will say ultimately again, when a woman sees blood, her status is only as of now, not backed up retroactively. Therefore, there's not even an issue that he's touched the niddah. I v'seifukle dahavi bal keri. 1 second, I will say, even leaving aside all the niddah issues, he's a bal keri, right? After all, again, he just had bia, which means there was a seminal emission, and therefore Allah Chalamayse, he can't go into the Beis Hamikdash regardless. Bishalo gamra biasa. So also it'd have to be that Rabbi Yehuda's case is a case where the bia wasn't finished, and therefore again I will say he did not emit any zera, and therefore in a case like that, technically speaking, where he did not become a bal keri, therefore again Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Yochanan ben Zakkai, is saying there would be no problem even with him entering into the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, both sides. The point is, we knew it even from the moment Rabbi Yehuda said it. It's not a statement to be understood literally. It's a figurative statement testifying to the fact that he's absolutely and unequivocally tahar. So we'll say this was an interesting part of the end of the Mishnah. Now, what I want to point out is as follows, which is that halacha l'maisa, we have not gotten into the halachos of ksamim. So in general, again, a kesem which is a stain, is considered to be more kal, considered to be more lenient, or treated more leniently than a re'iyah, than a flow, for the simple reason as follows. A kesem, we assume, did not come with a hargasha, did not come with a sensation. As soon as something does not come with a hargasha, ultimately, again, it's treated on a totally different level, a more makel level, which we always say, this is halacha l'maisa today. More often than not, most Haras HaMishpacha Shailas have to deal with ksam, have to deal with staining. And I will say generally, again, it depends if it's staining during Shiva Nekiyim or if it's staining during the rest of the month. But in general, again, when it comes to ksamim, they're treated in a much more makel fashion for this exact reason. Interestingly enough, so again, we have not done these sugyas of ksam yet. We see it quoted, but we haven't done it. Now understand what the Mishnah says over something quite interesting, that the Chachamim agree with Rabbi Akiva that if the woman saw kesem, she will be metame her husband. So says the Gemara as follows: Amarav lemafreya. So I'll say Rav says what this means is she'll be metame her husband retroactively. That ultimately, again, when she sees the kesem, the tumah is backed up retroactively. So the Gemara is Rabbi Meir, and this will reflect the view of Rabbi Meir. Shmuel says mikana la'aba. No. What it means is it impacts him, impacts the husband from now going forward, but not retroactively. For Rabbanani, and it will reflect the view of the Rabbanan. Mikana la'aba pshita. So we'll say obviously if she has a kesem, and let's say it's the type of kesem that renders her a niddah, of course she is matame her husband going forward. Ma'odetema, what would you have thought? Hoil u'me'is la'is d'Rabbanan uksamim d'Rabbanan. We'll say just like me'is la'is, right? Those who hold that her tumah status is backed up 24 hours. That is a din d'Rabbanan. Ksamim, right? They will say the problematic nature of niddah staining, or I should say staining of a woman, ultimately again is d'Rabbanan as well. Ma me'is le'is lo metame es ba'ala, just like me'is le'is does not go ahead. I will say, with the exception of Rabbi Akiva, no one holds that the husband becomes tame me'is le'is. Af ksamim lo metame es ba'ala. So too the husband should not be able to go ahead and become tame tumas niddah through ksamim as well. Kamashon, that's not the case. Kamashon, I will say that under certain circumstances, a husband can contract tumas niddah ultimately again from ksamim. But why not? Why don't you accept that argument? It's actually a pretty good argument, right? Just like the husband can't become tamei with tumas niddah from me'is le'is because me'is le'is is d'Rabbanan. Say the same thing by ksamim. Ksamim is also d'Rabbanan. Therefore, the husband cannot go ahead and become tamei from tumas niddah. Hasam ein shor shachat lefanecha. I will say, it's an interesting lashon, right? By me'is le'is, you don't have a slut. We will say we've seen this expression. Shor shachat lefanecha means explicit evidence. Explicit evidence. So we'll say in the case of me'is le'is, you don't have any explicit evidence that she has bled. What do I mean by that? We'll say, what do I know by me'is le'is? She sees blood now, so therefore we back up her status. But there's nothing to say on any type of solid level that she actually bled 24 hours. It's a rabbinic chumrah. In the case of ksamim, you mamish have harishar shachot lefanecha. Ultimately, again, to ignore the fact that there's a kesem here now and that it should impact her going forward, that's ignoring reality. Reish Lakish also said the kesem impacts the husband even l'mafreya. Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yochanan mikar lahabav rabbananu. And ultimately, again, Rabbi Yochanan says that the halacha is mikar lahabav, the kesem only impacts the husband, and it's the rabbanan. And I will say, halacha l'maisa, the Rambam Paskins like the first opinion, namely, like the rabbanan, that ksamim, the din that ksamim ultimately again will only impact mikar lahaba, will not go ahead and impact the mafreya. Again, we'll see that in the sugya ultimately of ksamim. We'll say, so I'll just tell you again, we don't have time to get into it now, but the Rambam in Hilchos Shkagos in Perek Hey Halacha Vav discusses all of the situations of immediately, achar toch hazman and achar hazman. So we'll say, I'll read to you quickly this Rambam. So the Rambam says as follows. Let me just. Okay, so I'm going to read to you the end of the Rambam. It's not really fair. You'll look this up on your own. It's Hilchos Shkagos Perek Hey Halacha Vav. How come no one's writing this down? All right, so you'll take a look at this. Because again, the beginning of the Rambam is actually very important because he discusses the distinctions between Isha Sheyesh Laveses, Isha She'en Laveses. What we're going to get into those sugyas later, I just want to show you his bottom line. Nimsa al Eid Shalah. So we'll say if the woman after relations finds blood on her bedikah cloth, Im Kancha Atzma Miyad, Kishapiri Shabavalo Shasa Shneim Tmeim V'chayav and Karban. So we'll say first category, like on the Gemara. If the bedikah occurs immediately, then and immediately as defined by the bia ends, and immediately she does the bedikah right then and there. What's the halacha? They're both tamei and chayiv karban. Good. Next category. Im shasa k'dei shetoshit yada l'sachas hakar l'sachas hakeses v'titol eid livdok bo v'achar kach kancha atzma shnei yitveim b'safik u'mikarban l'karban. So we'll say the Rambam's definition of achar zman is what? The amount of time that it takes her to reach underneath the pillow or underneath the cushion, get a bedikah cloth, and what? Check herself. So what doesn't the Rambam subscribe to? The amount of time it takes her to get off the bed. See, interestingly enough, the Rambam takes a little bit of a stricter position. Well, it's actually a more makel position because the more narrow you create the times, that means if she doesn't act fast enough, it's not going to be a problem. So achar zman means the amount of time it takes her to reach for the bedikah cloth and to the bedikah. V'im shasa kedei sheteri min amita v'tadiach es paneha. We'll say if she waits for the amount of time that it takes her to get off the bed and then go ahead and clean herself, wipe herself. So we'll say, so that is the Rambam's the halacha l'maisa. The Rambam really resembles the Chacham ben Yavne. Namely, immediately means right after bia. Achar zman, the amount of time it takes her to, and again, immediately, they're both tamei and chayiv karban chatas. Achar zman is within the amount of time that it would take her to reach for a bedikah cloth while she's still on the bed and wipe herself and see if she's bled. That's what we'll say tmei and misafek. And then ultimately again, and remember, Tmei Misafek will see and know no ashlam tali, which we'll discuss. P'tur min hakarban, and then achar, what we'll call achar, which is the amount of time that it'll take her to get off the bed and then do the checking. Ultimately, again, is totally patur. By latar, nothing going on. Beautiful. Says the Mishnah. We'll say all women have a cheskas tara for their husbands. Now, what does this mean? Look at Rashi. Below bedika. So we'll say now, the Mishnah makes a very important statement over here, which is a woman does not have to do a bedika prior to relations in order to establish that she is tahora for her husband. This is very important because I will say we've been speaking about pre-bia bedikos, post-bia bedikos, the tznuin doing before, the regular women doing afterwards. Now the Mishnah comes along and says, again, context is everything. I will say we've been talking about taras. In the world of taras, there are mandated bedikos, and once there are mandated bedikos of shachris v'arvis, then you come into these other bedikos as well, perhaps before, after bia. But in general, a woman is not handling taras. There's no obligation for any type of bedika prior to relations. Why? Because the woman has a cheskas tara for her husband. The woman has a chazaka that unless she's in active niddah, she has a cheskas tara for her husband. So the Mishnah says, Haboy min haderech. If a man comes to literally, haboy min haderech means literally he comes home from a trip. Nishei lahem becheskas tara. His wife has a cheskas tara. Now, what exactly that means? Why the Mishnah needs to say it? We'll discuss. Which the Gemara says, why do you have to? Right? Honestly, the first line is enough from the Mishnah. Right? All you need to tell me is what a wife has a cheskas tara for her husband. So we'll say, by the way, what does it mean? She has a cheskas tara. Well, what's the implication of that? That a husband doesn't have to ask his wife before relations, "Are you tahora?" Doesn't have to ask her that question. That lamaisa again, she has a cheskas tara for him. So okay, I got it. So why do you have to add in that second statement? That ultimately, again, if he comes home from a trip, he comes back from the road, that she has a cheskas tara. I would have thought as follows: when does a wife have a cheskas tara? That's when the husband is in town. That's when the she takes it upon herself. She's very careful and meticulous, and she does her bedikos. But ultimately, again, if her husband is not in town, and therefore, again, she's not careful with doing her bedikos. It's not on her mind. If her husband's in town and she realizes she wants to get to the mikvah, so that's when she's going to be a bit more careful with her bedikos. But if her husband, or whatever she has to do to get to the mikvah, but if her husband's not in town, then halacha l'maisa, again, maybe she's not going to be as careful with her bedikos. To which the Gemara says, kamash malan, that's not the case. Kamash malan, that halacha l'maisa, even if her husband's not in town, we assume that a woman takes care of whatever she needs to take care of in order ultimately, again, to get to the mikvah. Suppose now we're going to come along and qualify the ruling of the Mishnah. When do we say that a woman has a cheskas tara? We'll say, Reish Lakish says that's when her husband comes home. Look at Rashi. Supposed to listen to this. Now, Reish Lakish says, when could a husband assume that his wife is tahora? That's if he comes back within the ona. So we'll say, let's assume for a moment that most women experience their becoming a niddah, what we call the ona beinonis, once every 30 days. Once every 30 days. So Reish Lakish comes along and says like this: when could a husband assume that his wife is tahora? Halacha l'maisa, if he's coming back within 30 days. Coming back within 30 days, he could assume that again, she's not a niddah. If he's coming back after 30 days, then at that point in time, he cannot make any assumptions. Amar Rav Huna, lo shanu ela she'in lavesas. So Rav Huna says, furthermore, this halacha that he could assume that she has a cheskas tara is only if she doesn't have a set cycle. Aval yesh lavesas asul l'shamish. But ultimately, again, if she does have a regular cycle, then he can't have relations with her ultimately again until he asks her if she's tahora. To which Gemara says, Klapi Laya. I would say just the opposite. Adraba, Ipcha mistabra, Ein lavesas, Ein machazai. Yesh lavesas, vesas kaviyale. Just the opposite. If she doesn't have a vesas, that's when he has to be concerned and should have to ask her. If she does have a regular cycle, then ultimately again there's nothing to worry about. Ela I itmar hachi itmar. This is what you have to say. Amar Rav Huna. Lo shanu ela shelo higia shas vesta. When do we say that Lamaisa she has a cheskes tara? As long as the time of her veses did not come. Aval higia shas vesta. We will say if he comes home and it's the time of her veses, asura. Ultimately, again, she is usher to him without him first ascertaining that she is tahora. Kasavar vestos daoraisa. Because we will say this particular opinion holds that the concept of a veses, of a regular cycle, is a din daoraisa. Rashi says daoraisa means halacha lamoshe misinai de mechaskinon lebetumasavik. We will say if you hold vestos daoraisa, that means that there is a din, a biblical presumption, right? A daoraisa presumption that she has become a niddah. In which case, again, if he's coming home b'shas vesta, halacha lamaisa, he has to ascertain that she's a Torah and cannot assume that. Rabbi Chana Amar Afilu Higila Shas Vesta Nami Muteris. Rabbi Chana says if he comes home, right, and even if it's her time, her veses, she is still muteris to him. Why? Kasavar vestos dirabanan. Because I will say this opinion holds that ultimately Rabbi Chana will hold that halacha lamaisa vestos are only dirabanan. So the Gemara said Rav Ashi Masni Hachi. So Rav Ashi had a different version of this exchange. Amar Rav Huna said Amar Beis Lo Shanu Ella She'in Laveses Liyamim El Yesh Lavesos Liyamim Ulekfitzo. So this is very interesting. When do we say, right? When do we say that halacha lamaisa if a husband comes home? If a husband comes home, his wife has a cheskes tara, right? That's only true if what? Or even if she has a veses. But it's a veses not just for days, but a veses for days and for jumping. So I'll say, remember again, we saw this case before, which is, we'll talk about this when we get to the sugis of vestos, which is you could establish a calendrical veses, or you could establish what we call like an event veses, which means sometimes it's the passage of time that brings on a woman's nidos, and sometimes it could be an external event, right, that brings on her nidos, and sometimes you could have a hybrid model of yamim, what we call yamim and kfitzos, where there's a calendrical reality. It requires a passage of a certain amount of time, but even after that amount of time, it's only the external stimulus that brings it on as well. So we'll say, so says, I was talking over here, so says Rav Huna, when do we say that if the husband comes home, that ultimately again, his wife, he could assume his wife has a cheskes tara? That's even if she has a veses, as long as it's a veses for yamim and kfitzos. A calendrical and event an event veses. Why? Kevan de b'maisa talya milsa, because we'll say since at the end of the day she only becomes a niddah if what? If she does something, ema lo kafatz v'lo chazoy. So we'll say because her niddos is only brought on by what? By an event. We could assume that to a certain degree she could regulate herself, and therefore because she knows that her husband is coming home, therefore what should be careful not to what? Not to jump. Don't jump, right? And because ultimately, again, she's not jumping, therefore, halacha l'maisa, she has a cheskes tara. So we'll say this would be an interesting situation of a woman who has a cheskes tara, even though what? Even though halacha l'maisa, she has a veses. Right? That's the novelty of it. Because remember, again, we were saying before that halacha, there's a dispute. If a woman who has a veses, does she still have a cheskes tara? So what does that seem to depend on? What does that depend on? Do you hold vestos or daraisa dirabanan? If you hold vestos or daraisa, then if a woman has a veses and a husband comes home and it's his wife's veses, she does not have a veses, she does not have a cheskes tara. If you hold vestos dirabanan, she does have a cheskes tara. Comes along Rav Ashi, and Rav Ashi has a different version of this. Even if you hold vestos daraisa, you could still set up the Mishnah as dealing with a case of a woman with a veses. But what kind of veses? Yamim and kfitzos. Therefore, because there's an element that she controls, and she knows that her husband is coming home, she's going to make sure not to jump. So the Gemara says, Aval yesh la veses liyamim, but ultimately if all she has is a veses liyamim, right? If all she has is a calendrical veses, asur l'shamish. In a case like that, ultimately again, she will be prohibited to engage. And meaning, asur shamish means when he comes home, he cannot assume that she has a cheskes tara. Kasavar vestos da'oraisa. Because we'll say again, because this opinion holds, vestos are da'oraisa. So remember again, even if you accept the view, so we'll say this is actually an incredible interpretation, because this could explain the Mishnah, even according to the opinion who holds vestos da'oraisa. So what's a case where even if you hold vestos are da'oraisa, a man comes home, he's during the time of his wife's veses, and she still has a cheskes tara, it only works in one very specific case, which is where her veses is for yomim and kfitzos. So because of that, halacha l'maisa, we assume she won't jump. she'll regulate her period as a result of not jumping, and therefore she still has a cheskes tara. But in a chinami, if all she has is a vesas yomim, so therefore again, and he comes home and it's the time for her vesas, vestos are da'oraisa, according to this opinion, and therefore she will not have her cheskes tara. Beautiful. Rabbi Bar Chana Amar, afilu yesh la vesas liyomim muteres. So Rabbi Bar Chana says, no, even if she just has a vesas, a calendrical vesas, and he comes home, and it's her time for her vesas, still she is permitted to him. Why? Kasavar vestos t'rabbanan. So also remember again, here's the fundamental distinction. What's the difference between holding vestos t'rabbanan and vestos d'oraisa? We'll say if you hold vestos d'oraisa, then as soon as that vesas occurs, what do you have to assume? That she's a niddah. Right? That's what vestos d'oraisa means. So we'll say, let's say for argument's sake, a woman sees in the morning of the 30th day, every 30th day in the morning she sees, that means comes the morning on the 30th day, we assume she's bleeding, right? We assume that she is a niddah, an active niddah right now. If you hold vestos t'rabbanan, that doesn't mean that. Vestos t'rabbanan means there's a very strong possibility that she's going to become a niddah, but she's not actually a niddah until when? Until ultimately, again, she sees blood. So Amar Rav Shmuel Mishmeid Rabbi Yochanan. It was an interesting idea. Isha sheyesh la vesas, baila machashev yimei vesta u'ba'aleha. So it says an interesting case. If a woman has a vesas, right, her husband could calculate her vesas days and have relations with her. What does that mean? Look at Rashi, top Rashi. Well, it's the third line down from the top of Rashi. Mechashi yimei vesta, imsha baderach shiva yomim achar vesta, the achshav omedes biyamim shechola litar afilu higia vesta amrinan tavla v'yitzachshav. It's like all of these halachos are concerning whether or not a husband has to actively ask what is going on. So now Rabbi Yochanan says that halacha l'maisa, if a husband knows his wife's cycle, ultimately again he's permitted to, if he calculates out her cycle, he could calculate out her days. That's what Rashi was saying. He's away for 7 days after her vesas. Remember again, biblical niddah is 7 days and then going to the mikvah. So ultimately again, she is now at the point of time where she could have gone to the mikvah. He could calculate those days and we assume that she went to the mikvah. And there is no need for him to actually clarify this particular point with her. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yevel Rabbi Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Afilu yalda debaziza lemitva. What about Abba? This is actually very interesting. What happens if he's married to a young girl, right, a young woman, and apparently again, a young woman may be more reticent to go to the mikvah. What he's referring to over here is if her husband is in town, so she'll go to the mikvah, right? But otherwise, she's still a bit maybe more reticent to do this, and therefore halacha l'maisa, she'll go if her husband, but if her husband is not in town, maybe she won't go. So in this case, again, where she'd be more reticent to go to the mikvah, so halacha l'maisa, maybe if he's not in town, he does have to ask and clarify. Amar le atu vaday rasa mi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. To which the Gemara says, are we talking about a case where we're talking about a definitive niddah? Remember again, I was saying, in this case over here, we're not even sure if she became a niddah or not. Look at Rashi. Vaday rasa mi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Shol yitzarech l'shola ba'afilu hizikena. So I'll say, so remember again, Eimar d'Amar Rabbi Yochanan, safek rasa, safek lo rasa. So I'll say, so the Gemara is suggesting that Rabbi Yochanan's statement is as follows. Rabbi Yochanan's statement is like this. If a man is away, and he's away for the amount of time that his wife could have become a niddah, but he's also away for the amount of time that what? That halacha l'maisa, she also could have become tahora and gone to the mikvah. He doesn't have to ask. He doesn't have to ask if she's tahora. He could assume that she is tahora. So the Gemara is suggesting, why is that? So Rabbi Yochanan so we're suggesting over here that Rabbi Yochanan is dafka doing this in a case where he doesn't know for sure if she became a niddah or not. So it's a safek rasa, safek lo rasa. Vim tim soloma rasa, and even if she did become a niddah, ema tavla. Ultimately, again, we could assume that ultimately she went to the mikvah. That's what Rabbi Yochanan is saying. I don't know, right? The man doesn't know. Did his wife become a niddah, not become a niddah? But even if she did, so maybe she didn't become a niddah, in which case she's Torah. But even if she did become a niddah, halacha l'maisa what? There is enough time for her to have become Torah and gone to the mikvah. Avavaday rasa mi yemar de tavla. But ultimately, again, if she definitely became a niddah, how would he be sure that ultimately she went to the mikvah? In that case, he'd have to ask, because habile safek vivadai. We'll say this would be a case of a safek and a vadai. The vadai would be what? What's the vadai? She's a niddah. The safek is, did she go to the mikvah? Ve'in safek motzi midei vadai. So we'll say, so in that kind of case where a man absolutely knows that his wife did become a niddah, halacha l'maisa, even though again it's possible that by the time he's coming home she went to the mikvah, in that case Rabbi Yochanan would say he has to ask, he has to clarify. Why does he have to clarify? Because halacha l'maisa you have a safek and a vadai, in safek motzi midei vadai. The vadai is that she's a niddah. The safek is that she went to the mikvah. The safek of the mikvah is not motzi midei vadai of the niddah. So we'll say, the Gemara says, is that true? So we'll say this actually begins, and we'll say, you're thinking to yourself, why not just ask her? And we could just go ahead. Okay, because remember, you're almost finishing Shas. Don't ask questions like that. Right? We'll say, because again, remember, we're trying to isolate a principle over here, which is the concept of chezkas tara. We're trying to figure out how far, does a case like this happen? Pashtus, a man is away, of course he's going to ask his wife if she's tahora or not before he's with her, especially if he's away for a prolonged amount of time. We're trying to figure out how far the concept of chazaka goes. Remember, we always do this in Gemara. We go ahead and we explore cases which seem very strange and are very unlikely to ever occur. Unless, of course, the couple has very poor communication skills. Which I will say, that is halacha l'maisa, right? That does happen all of the time. So I'll say, so now, just so you understand what's happening over here is as follows. You have a Mishnah that says that when a man comes home, his wife has a chezkas tara. We're just trying to figure out what that means. Just on a principle level, on a conceptual level. How far does that chezkas tara go? Does that chezkas tara literally mean in a sense that he can literally have relations with her without even asking, without inquiring about that? So again, in the Gemara, to be clear, the Gemara is not condoning this model of dialogue, right? The Gemara is not condoning this level of interpersonal relationship between husband and wife. We're trying to create a conceptual framework for a halachic principle of chezkas tara. So as I say, the Gemara says now, I will say the Gemara brought up something different, which is as follows. Or so the Gemara says, so I will say, so now what we're suggesting is Rabbi Yochanan, who holds this. Rabbi Yochanan said a principle. Rabbi Yochanan's principle is that if a man is away, and he's away for the amount of time that his wife became a niddah and went to the mikvah, he need not inquire, because he could assume that she went to the mikvah. To which the Gemara says, further refines that concept. So what are we talking about? It's a case of where she may have become a niddah. So what's happening over here is he's away for long enough that she may have become a niddah or maybe not. But if she did become a niddah, then what? There was also enough time for what? To go to the mikvah. And in that case, Rabbi Yochanan holds that halacha l'maisa, he could go ahead and have relations with her without asking, meaning without inquiring about her status. It was a chezkas tara. But Rabbi Yochanan says if she definitely became a niddah, he would have to inquire if she went to the mikvah before having relations with her. Why? Because then you have a safek and a vadai. Vadai that she's a niddah, safek that she went to the mikvah, ve'in safek motzi midei vadai. And a safek cannot alleviate the vadai. To which the Gemara says, no, a safek can't alleviate a vadai. I think it actually can. Why was it? Watch this case. We learned chaver shemes. We'll say if a chaver is a person who is very meticulous in the laws of trumas and maisrus. So a chaver died. And I will say what happened. He left behind a storehouse, right, or a basket filled with fruit. So what's the shaila? Are they tithed or untithed? Are they metukan or are they tevel? Can I eat them or not? We'll say even if mamish, it's clear that he just went ahead and picked those fruit that day, halacha l'maisa, we assume that they have been properly tithed and therefore you could eat them. What's that? Vaday tevel, safek mu'usar, safek in mu'usar, v'ka'asi safek humotzi midei vaday. We'll say, what is this a case of? A case of safek and vaday. What's the vaday? The vaday is, I know that at least they were, at some point in time, they were tevel. What's the safek? Maybe he tithed them. And what do you see from here? The safek of them being tithed takes away the tevel status. So what do you see from here? Safek motzi midei vaday. To which the Gemara says, no. Hasam vaday uvadayu. We'll say that's a case not of safek and vaday, but vaday and vaday. Why kid Rav Chanina chazaka al chaver she'na motzi mitachas yado she'ena matukan. We'll say there's a chazaka that a chaver never leaves any untithed produce. If there is produce in his possession, it is automatically assumed to be tithed. Therefore, there is no safek in vadai, rather you have two vadais. The other possibility is safek v'safeku. It's two sfekas. Why? Kid Rabbi Oshia. Rabbi Oshia, marim adam al tvua, so machniso mochshala, kadesh tebehemta ochalas b'tura min ha'maiser. So we'll say it's actually very interesting. So there's another possibility, which is what? We'll say, if you are looking for a trumas and maestros loophole, there's an easy way, which is bring the produce into your house in the chaff. Right? If you bring it in the chaff, then remember, so produce only, right, grain only becomes such the trumas and maestros when it's threshed and piled. And then once it comes into the house, you're chayiv to go ahead and take it. But if you bring it in its chaff, ultimately again it's not subject. So we'll say, so therefore, essentially in this case over here, there's the possibility that it was never subject to trumas and maestros at all. Right? Maybe it came into the house in its chaff. Therefore, even if you subsequently thresh it in the house, halacha l'maisa, it's not subject to trumas and maestros. So we'll say, so therefore the Gemara says, either way, this is not a case of safek being motzeh b'devadai. Either it's vadai, meaning vadai was tevel, but vadai the chaver tithes his produce, or it's safek. Ultimately, again, safek, he went ahead and tithed it, and safek that what? Maybe it was never subject ultimately to tithing in the first place because it was brought in its chaff. I also have to stop over here. We're just going to pick up in Mirat Hashem tomorrow with the sugya of safek motzeh midei vadai. Shkoyach.